Today is day 5 for my Bonne Maman advent calendar. Let's see what's behind door number 5. Counter cooking. No kitchen, no problem. So here's door number 5. It is near the bottom left-hand corner, right near door number 3 and door number 4. Let's see what's in here. We have purple fig cinnamon spread. I am pretty sure I've never had this before. So for the past 2 years, there was fig and cardamom fruit spread. And this is the first year with purple fig and cinnamon. So let's give this a try. It's a really dark color. That is so good. Cinnamon and figs go so well together. Let's see if we can make fig bars, like homemade fig Newtons. So I found a recipe online and I've cut it down to 1/6 and I've made a few adjustments to it. So let's see if it works. So in this bowl, I have a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour plus 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. I'm adding 1 tablespoon of sugar. I don't want this dough to be too sweet. I've added a tablespoon of cold butter, which I've cut into small pieces. I'm adding a pinch of baking powder, a little bit of vanilla extract. That was actually more than I wanted to add. I wanted to add just a few drops. The recipe says to add a teaspoon of milk. I'm adding a teaspoon of cold water because I don't have milk. And I'm actually just gonna mix all of this together with my hands. I'm using this really quick method. This reminds me of making pie dough. This is really similar to pie dough, just with a few extra ingredients. So I'm just gonna use the flour to coat everything, and then I'm going to squash up the butter, make sure it's incorporated, and this should all just form itself into a dough if the ratio for the ingredients are correct. And the reason why I'm using my hands, this is just the quickest way to do it. And I chose this recipe because it does not have an egg in it. Most of the recipes did have an egg in it, but the problem is when you have a recipe for a lot of fig bars and you only want to make like 2 little fig bars, you can't really cut down an egg and be like, okay, I'm only going to use 1/6 of an egg. So the dough is starting to come together, which is good. If it ends up being too dry, I could always just add a little bit more water to it. That's not an issue. So right now this dough is like on the crumbly side. So I'm actually going to add just a few drops of water to it. It could be that I did not need that extra tablespoon of flour. Like a 1/4 cup of flour probably would have worked well. I'm just going to work that extra liquid into the dough. From reading the recipe, it indicated that the dough is probably supposed to be a little bit sticky because it says to roll it out between parchment paper and also to chill it for a minimum of 10 minutes before rolling it out. So I think this is a better consistency for it. Yeah, now we have a bit of a sticky dough. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator for 10 minutes while I get everything else ready. I'm going to be using my Cook with Color mini toaster oven. Right now I have it preheating. I have it set to 450 degrees, but with this oven it tends to be much cooler than the actual temperature, and so it'll be very close to 350 degrees. It's been about 10 minutes. I just took the dough out of the refrigerator. I'm just patting it down a little bit. I have it on parchment paper. I'm going to put parchment paper on top of it, and I need to roll this out into like a rectangle. So I don't know how this is going to work. Let's see. Okay, so it's really difficult to roll it like this. I'm going to have to do it manually a little bit, I think. But I don't know how it's going to turn into a rectangle because it's more like a circle. Also, I don't really know how thick I'm supposed to roll this. I think this looks good. I don't even know if I need the parchment paper, to be honest. Like, it's rolling fine without the parchment paper. And I probably just need to cut this into a rectangle. So there's my rectangle of dough. And what I need to do is put the fig filling on one half, and then I'll be folding the dough over on top of it. So let's see what happens. Hopefully this is not just going to be a disaster. I don't know how much of the fig filling is going to end up like running over the edge. I think this is good. That looks pretty good. That's most of the jar. Let's turn this over. Let's turn it this way. I don't know if I'm supposed to press down the edge, but I will. Just going to press down the edges. Maybe nothing will leak, but chances are good it's going to leak. And now I'm supposed to take a knife and cut these into cookies. So I think this is a good size. Okay, so now I have 4 fig bars, and let's put these in the mini toaster oven. Here's my mini toaster oven, and the parchment paper started to burn, so I don't know if that's good. Actually, it's not too bad, it's just a little bit dark. Let's see, can we put these fig bars on the parchment paper? I'm trying to be careful because the oven's hot. Okay, so there's the fig bars. I don't know if this is going to be a disaster. And it says to bake these for about 15 minutes until golden on the bottom. Remove from the oven and let cool on pan. Cookies will be a little crisp when freshly made, but store in an airtight container overnight and they will soften to the classic cakey, chewy texture. I have a feeling that the filling is just going to ooze out all over that pan and not even remain in these fig bars. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I think when you make fig bars, the filling is supposed to be a little bit thicker than this. I probably maybe should have like got some dried figs and mixed it into the fruit spread to make it thicker. So we're just gonna see what happens. I am kind of anticipating a disaster. We're at about 13 minutes of cooking time, and I think these fig bars are done. Do you see what's going on in there? They're nicely browned. There is some fig escaping from the sides. So let's take this pan out. Here are the mini fig bars. I think they look good. Even though the filling is oozing out of the sides, I still think they look delicious. I can't wait to taste one. So I just need to cool these off. I'm just gonna leave these here and let them cool. I actually ended up taking them off the pan, but I left them on the parchment paper because I wanted to put them on this cooling rack. And I want to use the baking pan to use up the rest of the dough and the rest of the fig fruit spread. So I'm just going to put these aside. This is the remaining dough from the fig bars, and I thought this would make a thumb press cookie. So let's see if we could do that. So I'm just going to take my thumb and press it down. It's a little cracking on the sides, but that's okay. I think it'll still be good. We're going for flavor and not wasting anything. So why should I waste this dough if I can make a little thumbprint cookie with it? I'm just trying to make it so that the filling is not gonna ooze out and escape. It might, but maybe it won't. So there's the filling. I just put it in the toaster oven. And I set it for about 12 minutes. It's been about 10 minutes. Let's check on this cookie. I think it's done. It's like browning around the edges and on the bottom. So I'm gonna take it out. I think that looks like it's done. I'm gonna let it cool. These are my mini fig bars. They're still a little bit warm, but I just really wanna taste one of them. So I'm gonna taste the smallest one right here. I think it came out good. That kind of looks like a homemade fig Newton. They're definitely a little bit crispy, but that's what the recipe said. They said they'll be crispy, but if you store them in an airtight container, then they'll get more of the consistency of a fig Newton. This tastes really good. It is sweeter than what I think of when I think of like a fig Newton, but that's because the fruit spread that I used is probably sweeter than the traditional Fig Newton filling. The outer dough tastes like a butter cookie. To me, it's a little bit too sweet. I put in a tablespoon of sugar. When I make these again, I'm definitely only gonna put maybe like a teaspoon of sugar. Like, I just think it's just too sweet, but they're absolutely delicious. I am getting a lot of butter flavor though. So I don't know if I would cut back on the butter next time also. I'd probably wanna continue to play with the recipe, but I'm super happy with this, how this turned out. These are really good. These make a delicious holiday treat. Here's my cookie. It's been cooling off for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and I can't wait to try it. It looks really good. Thankfully, the fruit spread did not leak out much. It overflowed a little bit over here, but that's it. I probably could have taken it out a little bit sooner. See how dark the bottom is? But I never made this before, so I was just experimenting. That is delicious. It is like a rich and delicious butter cookie with the fig cinnamon spread on top. So good. This would be perfect with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. It's just absolutely delicious and it totally tastes like the holiday season. For making this type of cookie, I feel like the amount of sugar was enough. Like 1 tablespoon of sugar is good. It's a few hours later. This fig bar has been in a sealed plastic container for a few hours. I'm gonna try it now and see what it tastes like. It still tastes delicious. Now that the filling has cooled off, it definitely tastes more like a Fig Newton, but the cookie around it still very much tastes like a butter cookie. However, it's not soft. So I'm gonna let it continue to sit in this covered container and I'll try it again later or tomorrow. It's about 6 hours later and I'm gonna try another one because I just really want to eat these. They're calling me. And they're still kind of crispy. They're definitely not the texture of like a Fig Newton. They really remind me more of like a shortbread cookie. It is now the next day and this fig bar has been in a sealed container in the refrigerator overnight. Let's see if it's still crispy or more chewy. So it's not as crispy as it was yesterday, but it still does not have the texture of like a Fig Newton. It's not that soft. It's a little bit, I don't want to say crispy because it's not really crispy. It's like firmer and obviously it doesn't really have the flavor. It tastes more like a shortbread cookie. It's still delicious. I'm perfectly happy with this, but it's not what I think of when I think of like a Fig Newton, like that type of fig bar, but it's still really good.